I refused to say sorry after my roommate's girlfriend walked in on me naked. Alright, here's what went down. I'm a 22-year-old guy living with another guy around the same age. We're not best friends or anything, it's just a chill, practical living situation. He's got a new girlfriend who's been hanging around our place a lot lately. Now, our apartment has 2 bathrooms. One's in my bedroom, and the other's out in the hallway. He uses the hallway one, and I stick to the one in my room. Keep that in mind, it matters later. So the other day, I hop out of the shower and I'm in my room, towel off, just looking for some clean clothes. I'm a bit of a mess, so my stuff was all over the place. I didn't think anything of it, it's my room, my private space. Next thing I know, the door swings open and his girlfriend barges in. No knock. No warning. Just walks right in. I didn't even know she was over. If I had, I definitely would have locked the door. She freaks out, turns and runs out of the room. A few minutes later, she's acting like I did something wrong. She's mad, saying she was uncomfortable and thinks I owe her an apology for being naked. I was like, hold up. You walked into my room without knocking. How is that on me? She said the other bathroom was taken, so she figured she'd just use mine. I told her that's not how this works. You don't just open someone's bedroom door like it's no big deal. Now she's got my roommate involved. He's saying I should have locked my door and that I made her uncomfortable, so I should at least apologize. But honestly? No way. If the situation were flipped and I walked in on her naked because I didn't knock, I guarantee people wouldn't be telling her to apologize to me. They'd be yelling at me for invading her privacy, and they'd be right. So no, I'm not saying sorry. I didn't do anything wrong. I was in my own room, minding my business. She didn't respect boundaries, and now she's acting like the victim. Sometimes, respecting boundaries is as simple as knocking, but when you don't be surprised if it's you who's left embarrassed. Next up, imagine being given away as a child, only to have your biological parents come back years later expecting smiles and happy memories. This next story? Let's just say the reunion wasn't quite what they planned. They gave me up for adoption, now they want a happy reunion? Here's what I told them. I was put up for adoption right after I was born. Unfortunately, the adoption didn't turn out well. I ended up bouncing around the foster care system until I aged out at 18. Now I'm 20 and in college, just trying to focus on building a better life. A few months ago, back in February, I got a Facebook message from a guy claiming to be my biological father. That alone stirred up a lot of emotions. We chatted back and forth for a bit. I didn't share too much about my childhood, I kept the ugly details to myself. But eventually, we made plans to meet. Both he and my birth mother were going to be there. They weren't a couple anymore, but they were coming together for this meetup. When I got to the restaurant, I was hit with a surprise that I was definitely not ready for. Not only were my birth parents there, but they also brought their spouses, their other kids, and even my grandmother, my father's mom. It felt like I was walking into some kind of reunion party for a family I wasn't even part of. I was already feeling nervous and emotional, and seeing all of them sitting there just made it worse. For the next hour, I sat there listening to them talk about their lives, stories about vacations, holidays, their kids, their happy little lives, while I forced a smile and nodded like everything was fine. But inside? I was falling apart. I couldn't stop thinking about how they'd gone on to have these beautiful families while I grew up with nothing, no love, no support, just pain and survival. Eventually, they started asking me questions. They wanted to know about me, what my life was like, what happened after they gave me up. And that's when I completely lost it. I broke down. I started crying like a kid. I told them the truth, that my adoptive parents were awful, that my life in foster care was miserable, and that I'd never really had a chance to be a child. And then I got bitter. I told them I was glad their lives worked out, but mine sure didn't. My father ended up having to take me home after that. He seemed genuinely sorry. But I still felt like garbage. Later on, I got messages from both of them, separately. They were apologizing, saying they wanted to make it up to me. My mom, especially, seemed really shaken. She said she hadn't been able to sleep since that day. I haven't replied to either of them. I've just been throwing myself into school and trying not to think about it. I keep wondering if I was wrong for unloading all that on them at the restaurant. Maybe I should have warned them how bad my life really was before we met up. But at the same time, how did they expect me to feel? They gave me away. Then they built these picture-perfect families, had other kids, and now they want me to show up and smile like none of it happened? Rebuilding bridges isn't always as easy as just showing up, and sometimes, the hurt left behind is far deeper than anyone imagined. And now, we shift gears to a guy who thinks his girlfriend's wardrobe is, let's just say, a little too animated. But his plan to get her to change? That backfired spectacularly. My girlfriend dresses like a cartoon teacher, so I asked her to change. I'm 42, and I genuinely didn't think I was out of line, but apparently, everyone around me disagrees. My mom is furious, my best friend says I was acting like trash, and my girlfriend? Yeah, she's not exactly speaking to me right now. My girlfriend's 35, and she teaches preschool. And for some reason I've never fully understood, she dresses like Ms. Frizzle from that old cartoon. Seriously, she wears these bright, quirky dresses that match whatever her class is learning about. Dinosaurs, the solar system, insects, she's even made matching face masks to go with them. The kids? They adore it. The parents? They think it's amazing. Me? I'm not so sure. I've never loved how much attention she gets when she's out dressed like that. I always figured if she had errands to run after work, she could at least change into something a little more neutral. So, this past Friday, she swung by to help my mom with something after work, still wearing her teacher dress, of course. I had already told her before that I didn't love her going out like that, but she always brushed it off and said I didn't have to like it, but I couldn't control how she dressed. So, I tried a different tactic. I told her my mom had said she was embarrassed by the outfit and asked that she dress differently next time they went out together. Yeah, not my best move. My girlfriend immediately called my mom to apologize, and when she explained what I told her, my mom lost it. She was furious, not at her, but at me. Turns out, my mom loves how my girlfriend dresses and thinks it's awesome that she puts so much effort into making learning fun for the kids. Then she chewed me out for lying and trying to throw her under the bus because I couldn't handle my own insecurities. After that, my girlfriend and I had it out. I told her she should be embarrassed to be seen in public looking like that, and she hit me with a brutal reply, "The only thing I'm embarrassed by is you." Since then, she's gone radio silent. No texts, no calls, nothing. My best friend straight up told me I was acting like garbage and that I'd be lucky if she didn't dump me. Look, maybe I shouldn't have lied, but I still think she should take my feelings into account when it comes to how she presents herself in public. Am I really such a bad guy for that? Maybe her wardrobe isn't about making a statement, it's about living out her passion. Sometimes, loving someone means loving what makes them unique. Now imagine finally getting a day off with your partner, only for them to throw it all away. This next story is all about priorities and what happens when yours don't match up. I banned my husband from the bedroom after he ruined our only day off together. I'm a nurse, working about 50 hours a week in a pediatric intensive care unit. It's emotionally draining, I cry at least once a week from the stress. My salary? It covers everything: rent, utilities, groceries, all of it. My husband is 26. He's got a degree but isn't exactly job hunting. Right now, he works 2 days a week at a grocery store and spends the rest of his time glued to his computer, playing League of Legends. It's been like this for a while, and I've been practically begging him to switch his Saturday shift, just once, so we could actually have a day off together. Since our wedding 18 months ago, we haven't had a single weekend together. Finally, we managed to get a Saturday off. We planned to visit an animal sanctuary, something I'd been looking forward to for months. I woke up around 9 a.m., excited to start the day, only to find out he wasn't home. I called him, and he casually told me he went out to breakfast with his best friend and was now helping him set up lights. He also mentioned that the weather was too rainy for the sanctuary anyway. He got back around 1 p.m., lounged around, played some video games, and promised we'd cook dinner together that evening. Then, right around 5, he left again to help that same friend with something else. I decided to get the grocery shopping done since I didn't want the whole day to be wasted. Now, I don't drive because of some medical issues, so I walked there and back in the rain. When I got home, I realized I'd left my keys inside. I called him, knowing he was only 5 minutes away, and asked him to come let me in. He said he'd leave in a minute. So, I waited. In the rain. In the cold. For 45 minutes. I called him again, frustrated and freezing. He finally agreed to come home, pulled into the driveway, pressed the clicker to open the garage, and drove off. He didn't even get out of the car. By 10 p.m., I was exhausted and fed up. I called him again, and his friend picked up, saying they were heading somewhere an hour away. I didn't even bother waiting up, I just went to bed. I shot him a text, letting him know I didn't want to talk and that I'd appreciate it if he just stayed out of the bedroom for the night. I needed space away from him, away from the excuses, and away from the constant letdowns. If he couldn't prioritize one single day with me in 18 months, then he could sleep wherever he wanted, just not with me. So, Reddit, was I wrong to ban him from the bedroom after that disaster of a day? When you only have one chance to make time for each other, missing it hurts a whole lot more. Next, we dive into a workplace secret that backfires in the most public way possible. When someone thinks you're not listening, well, sometimes you're reading every single word. My coworker didn't know I could read lips. Until I confronted her. I've had hearing issues for most of my life, but it wasn't officially diagnosed until I was about 7. That's when I picked up the skill of reading lips, right around the time I was learning to speak. Over the years, I got pretty good at it, so good that it became second nature to me. Whenever I start working with someone new, I always make sure they know I have hearing loss. I tell them straight up to face me when they're talking so I can see their lips move and actually catch what they're saying. I never outright mentioned to any of my coworkers that I could read lips, but I'm pretty sure a few of them had already figured it out. It's not exactly a secret, but I just never felt the need to spell it out. Then one day, a new coworker joined the team. I did my usual introduction, gave her the rundown about my hearing loss, and asked if she could make sure to face me when talking. I don't think she believed me, though, because she got really annoyed when I didn't respond to her one day. The thing is, she had been trying to get my attention from behind, and I genuinely didn't hear her. I wasn't ignoring her, I just couldn't hear her. Once someone finally got my attention, I went straight over, apologized, and reminded her that I have hearing loss and that I really hadn't heard her trying to get my attention. A few days later, I caught her venting to one of our mutual coworkers. The only problem for her? She was facing me while doing it. I could read every single word she was saying, clear as day. After listening for a bit, I decided I'd had enough. I walked right up to her and calmly told her that if she was going to badmouth someone, she might want to make sure that person can understand her. I made it clear that I'd been reading her lips the whole time. I also told her that I was hurt she couldn't just come to me directly, especially since I had told her twice that I'm partially deaf and can't hear people if they're behind me. Her reaction? She absolutely freaked out, claiming I was the rude one for reading her lips even though she was standing right in front of me. Honestly, I can't see how I'm in the wrong here. If anything, it's a straightforward 0 out of 5 on the bad scale for me. Her, though? I'd give her a solid 2 out of 5 for being downright inconsiderate. Sometimes, the loudest truths are the ones you never actually hear, but you see. Now let's head back to the home front, where one woman's birthday cake demands are enough to cause an all-out family standoff. The cake standoff, putting family drama on hold. This story is about my son's 12th birthday and a long-standing family issue that finally needed to be addressed. Ever since my kids were little, I've always had to buy 2 cakes for every birthday, one that my kids actually want, and one for my sister. Yes, you heard that right. My sister, who's 27, has been throwing tantrums for years if the birthday cake isn't her preferred flavor, vanilla. My kids, on the other hand, absolutely hate vanilla. They've always wanted chocolate, but to keep the peace, I'd get a second cake every single year. For the past 11 years, I've been doing this, buying 2 entire cakes just to avoid her meltdowns. It's ridiculous, but it's been the only way to keep her from ruining the party. But now that my son is turning 12, I decided it was time for him to have the birthday he actually wants. I promised him years ago that on his 12th birthday, he could pick whatever flavor he wanted, no questions asked. So, I stuck to my promise and only ordered a chocolate cake. When my sister found out, she wasn't happy. She threw a fit, demanding to know why I hadn't gotten her vanilla cake. I calmly explained that it was my son's birthday and that he should get the cake he wants. I even suggested cupcakes if she really wanted her own flavor, but she just wasn't having it. The party came, and sure enough, she sulked in the corner, arms crossed like a child. I ignored it and focused on my son. It was his day, after all. But the real kicker came when she stormed out of the party, mumbling about how unfair it was. I honestly don't understand how a grown woman can act like this over cake. My family thinks I was being selfish for not accommodating her, saying that it wouldn't have hurt to buy an extra cake just to avoid drama. But I think it's about time she learns that not everything revolves around her, especially not on my son's birthday. Maybe it's time to let the birthday kid actually pick their own cake, and maybe for grown adults to act like grown adults. Now for a story that brings office politics to a whole new level. A diet bet that started with fun and ended with an HR meeting. Yeah, it got messy. I confronted my coworker's diet bet and HR stepped in. Am I the bad person? I work at a mid-sized office where a handful of colleagues decided to launch a diet challenge and put money into a group bet. They figured since I've visibly put on some pounds, I must be looking for a weight loss kickstart and that I'd gladly chip in cash to make it interesting. Right from the start, they cornered me at lunch, saying things like, "Come on, man, it's fun. You'll look better, feel healthier, and it's great team bonding." They pitched it just like a Weight Watchers meetup, sharing meal plans, pep talks, and all that. I politely declined, explaining I wasn't interested. But that didn't stop them. 2 weeks went by and they still wouldn't drop it. Every time I said no thanks, they took it as a personal challenge to convince me. Eventually, it felt less like friendly persuasion and more like harassment. So I approached HR and asked for help. After that, the chatter died down and they canceled the whole diet bet. A few days later, I was eating my usual lunch, just rice and beans, when a couple of the same coworkers sat down next to me. They smiled and nudged, ready to join now? We'll win big together. That was the last straw. I finally lost my cool and told them straight up that their constant pestering sucked. Then I laid it out. I'm a recovering anorexic, and weight loss competitions are a major trigger for me. On top of that, I'm about to have my 3rd oral surgery to remove rotting teeth caused by past health complications. I asked, does all that sound like something I should gamble my health over? The room went silent. Some of them muttered apologies, but others complained afterward that I overreacted and was being the typical hypersensitive millennial. Now I'm second-guessing myself. Was I out of line for putting them in their place and getting HR involved? Or am I justified for standing up against what felt like workplace bullying? Am I the bad person? Not every office competition is just for fun, and sometimes, stepping up for yourself isn't just brave, it's necessary. Next, a baby name debate that might have you rethinking every Karen meme you've ever laughed at. For this dad-to-be, the stakes are higher than just a punchline. My wife wants to name our baby Karen, but I can't let that happen. So, my wife and I recently found out we're having a daughter, and we're starting to talk about baby names. We hadn't really discussed it much before, but once the conversation started, we agreed that each of us would have veto power over the names we pick. The issue came up when my wife suggested naming her after her mom, whose name is Karen. Now, I love the idea of honoring our moms, but I really didn't feel comfortable with the name Karen. I offered an alternative. We could name her after my mom, or we could use Karen as a middle name instead of a first name. My wife got pretty upset, though, because she really wanted to name our daughter after her mom. She thought I was being unreasonable and assumed I had something against the name. The truth is, it's not about disliking her mom's name, I just don't want to set our daughter up for a lifetime of teasing. I explained that I'd be totally fine with any first name she picks, as long as it doesn't leave our daughter vulnerable to bullying. But she's really set on Karen, and I can't seem to change her mind. I know memes come and go, so it's possible by the time our daughter is old enough for school, people won't associate Karen with entitlement anymore. But, on the other hand, there's also a chance it might stick around and cause some problems. I'm in a field where I joke about Karens all the time, and I just worry it could lead to my daughter being the butt of jokes. I want her to have a name that doesn't make her an easy target. So, I'm curious, are there any Karens out there who are in school? Do you get picked on or hear "don't be a Karen" when you're upset? I haven't been in school for years, so maybe it's not as big of a deal as I think, but I just can't shake the feeling it might be a problem. Choosing a name is more than just tradition, it's a legacy. And sometimes, you've got to stand your ground, even if it means going against the grain. Finally, we close with a story of broken promises, schoolyard lies, and one dad who wasn't about to let his son be let down. This last one? It's all about standing up, even when everyone else says you should sit back down. I confronted my son's school after they lied about donation prizes. Did I go too far? So, my son is in 4th grade, and here's the deal with his school: it's only open on Mondays. The rest of the week, he's home with me. No virtual learning, no Zoom calls, and no teacher check-ins. Homework doesn't even get turned in. Instead, they just give the kids a participation grade if they tell the teacher they completed it. It feels like everything is backwards, and the kids aren't being graded for the actual work they do. Every Monday, we get a new flyer asking for donations. Last week, the flyer promised prizes for participation if you sent out 20 emails asking people for donations. The more donations you got, the better the prize. My son was hoping to win a pair of headphones. The flyer never mentioned how many donations were required, so I called the school to ask. They told me it was 12 donations, so I sent out 20 emails. We ended up getting 14 donations. The plan was to submit the donation list to the school, including his student ID, and pick up the prize the following Monday. My son was beyond excited because he thought he'd earned the headphones. We show up at the school, and they tell us that he didn't qualify for the prize. Apparently, the 12 donations didn't count toward the prize, and you needed 20 donations to even be eligible. This was news to me, since no one had told us that. My son was crushed. It wasn't just him either. They turned away almost every student. So, I grabbed my son and pulled the teacher and principal aside. I told them how messed up it was to get the kids' hopes up for nothing, and how they just crushed their spirits by lying. I also reminded them that I had been told by the secretary that my son only needed 12 donations to earn the headphones. Their response? "Sorry you feel that way, but that's just how things are with COVID." I couldn't take it. I asked, so lying to the kids and breaking their spirits is fine because of COVID? Not providing virtual learning like other schools? Asking for donations when the kids are only in school 1 day a week, that's okay, too? Then, I walked out. Later that day, my son got the headphones in the mail, along with an apology note from the superintendent. It said, "We apologize for the confusion surrounding the donation drive. We're trying to work with families, not turn them away." My son was ecstatic. My husband, though, thinks I overreacted. He says I was being a Karen and that we should have just let it go. He thinks it teaches our son that life isn't always fair, and I now look like a helicopter parent. So, am I the bad one here for speaking up? Sometimes it's not just about speaking up, it's about knowing when to stand your ground. Whether it's a family reunion that reopens old wounds, or calling out someone's nonsense right to their face, today's stories were proof that honesty isn't always easy, but it's always powerful. Let me know which one hit you the hardest, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.